So far we have discussed about the useful microorganisms, the commercial uses of microorganisms and other kind of uses of microorganisms, how they are helpful for us and how we are able to make use of these microorganisms to produce different items which are very important for our day-to-day activities. Now let us see the harmful microorganisms. In the beginning of the lesson we discussed that microorganisms, they are harmful. At the same time, certain microorganisms are useful. So microorganisms, partly they are friendly to humans, partly they are harmful or dangerous or enemies to humans. So why these microorganisms are harmful? Because certain microorganisms, they cause diseases in plants as well as in animals, including humans. So certain diseases are caused by the microorganisms. So the microorganisms that cause diseases are called as pathogens. Pathogen. Pathogen means which cause disease. Which microorganisms are called as pathogens? The microorganisms which can cause disease either in a plant or in an animal, it is called as a pathogen. Now, let us talk about the disease causing microorganisms in humans. We are going to discuss about certain diseases that are caused by the microorganisms in humans. How these microorganisms cause diseases in humans. Diseases in humans. So where are the microorganisms? We discussed earlier, microorganisms are omnipresent. They are present everywhere. They are present in the soil, they are present in the water, they are present in the other milk, food, different places. So the microorganisms, they are very small, they are very light, they are easily carried from place to place by different means. So what are the means? Air is a carrier of microorganisms. Microorganisms are carried by water, and sometimes the food may get contaminated. So primarily air and water, they carry the microorganisms. Somewhere the water is polluted. See, for example, there is a river. At one bank of the river, somebody polluted the river. So certain microorganisms entered into the river water. So the water, it flows to other bank where the people are taking the water for drinking, and these microorganisms enter our body. So when you drink unpurified water, contaminated water, then the microorganisms enter our body. So the diseases which are spread like this are called as communicable diseases. Communicable diseases. The diseases that are spread by air, water, or direct contact. See, somebody has got a cold. So when the nasal fluid is coming out of their nose, they will wipe their nose like this. So it sticks to their finger, the nasal fluid. It dries up. But the virus which is there in the nasal fluid, the virus will be sticking to their fingers. If you give shake hand to the person, so from the hand or the fingers of that person, the virus sticks to your hand. And again, if you keep your hand either at your nose or mouth, or if you eat anything with the hand, then the virus enters your body. So that is by the direct contact. Direct physical contact. So these diseases, the diseases that are spread by air, water, or direct contact are called as communicable diseases. Communicable diseases. So apart from this media, air, water, and direct contact, some other media plays a very important role in spreading the diseases. Spreading the disease causing microorganisms, disease causing pathogens from one to another, from the source to the healthy person. Those are insects. Insects and certain animals. Certain animals, they carry the disease causing organisms in their bodies to humans. Mostly the insects like housefly and mosquitoes. So these two insects, housefly and mosquito, they spread disease causing organisms from the source to the body of a healthy person. Houseflies, they sit on debris, litter, waste, excreta, sewage. So all kind of waste which consists of lot of microorganisms, the stinking waste, the decaying matter, human excreta. So in all these places you see so many flies. So the flies, they sit on this kind of material. The microorganisms stick to the legs of the flies. Again the same flies, if they sit on the food which is kept uncovered. So uncovered food is very dangerous. You need to cover the food even at your kitchen. Do not leave any food item in the dish without a lid. It's compulsory that you should cover your food with a lid. And you see, even if you go outside on the roadside stalls, food is sold. Different kind of foods are sold. Samosa are sold and different items are sold. So see that whether they're all properly covered or not. Even you see in a sweet stall, there will be so many sweets. Just observe whether any houseflies into that case or cabin in which they keep the sweets. Sometimes you may find flies. So the flies, they go to the food items. Earlier, where were they? The fly, it might have sat on any dirtiest things which have microorganisms. So there is a possibility if the houseflies are falling on the food, they are standing on the food in the sense they are carrying microorganisms to the food. So houseflies, they carry disease causing organisms like cholera, diarrhea, dysentery. All these things are happened because of this houseflies. So next to houseflies, the another dangerous one, mosquitoes. So mosquitoes, they feed on the blood of humans and other animals. When a mosquito, it bites an unhealthy person, the person who is suffering from malaria, this malarial parasite enters the body of the mosquito. If the same mosquito bites another healthy person, the parasite enters the healthy person. That means the mosquito is carrying the germs from a malaria infected person to healthy person. So mosquito bites are very dangerous as they can carry malarial parasites. The female Anopheles mosquito, it carry the malarial parasite, malarial. And Aedes mosquito, it carries dengue causing pathogens, microorganisms. So these are called as, these insects and animals which are carrying the disease causing organisms are called as carriers. There is a specific name given to them, carriers. What are the carriers? Insects and other animals. Why are they called as carriers? Because they are carrying the disease causing organisms from a dirty place, either from a drainage, either from a toilet, from a place where microorganisms are there, from there to a healthy person. These mosquitoes are there carrying the disease causing organisms from an infected person to a healthy person. So that is the reason they are called as carriers. So to control these diseases like malaria, dengue, what can we do? We have to control the carriers. How can we control the carriers? We have to control the mosquitoes. It is a very big challenge to the mankind. There are so many things invented to control the mosquitoes, but still every day you will be having 2 to 3 stings of mosquitoes. Even though you go for a repellent, you go for a mosquito mat, and you go for a mosquito anti-mosquito ointment, cream applied to your bodies. Despite of all of your efforts, still you will be suffered from mosquito bites, because mosquitoes are growing in a large number, they are breeding in a large number because of certain wrong practices that are followed by us. Where do the mosquitoes breed? The mosquitoes, they breed in the stagnant water. So we people do not take care of the stagnant water, and we have to keep the surroundings clean. Where there is a lot of stagnant water, so in the stagnant water the mosquitoes breed. If you see that there is no stagnant water, that means if you are throwing the empty cans and empty coconut shells onto the roads, if there is any rain, if the rainwater gets stored in that coconut shell, or if the rainwater gets stored in the empty cans, empty tires, so in that stagnant water the mosquitoes breed. So we should see that there is no stagnant water at all. If there is any stagnant water which you cannot clean it, we can spray certain oils like kerosene or diesel, so whether they cannot breed. And we can take other precautions also. So the government, the municipality or the corporation people, they apply some smoke in the evenings to control the mosquito. Anyway, from our side, we should see that there is no stagnant water, and by that we can stop the breeding of mosquitoes. If that is done, we can control the diseases like malaria and dengue, which are caused by the mosquito. So here, mosquito is not the pathogen. Mosquito is a carrier of pathogen. Mosquitoes, they carry the pathogen. So we know the meanings of the different terms we use it here. Pathogen means the microorganisms which cause disease. That is called as a pathogen. It means that all microorganisms are not pathogens. The microorganisms which cause disease are called pathogens. The diseases that spread from person to person are called as communicable diseases. The diseases that are spread by air, water or direct contact are called communicable diseases. Certain diseases are spread by insects and animals. We call these insects and animals as carriers, as they carry the pathogens or microorganisms from one person, from infected person to healthy person. Now let us see different kind of diseases that are caused by the microorganisms in humans. The disease and the disease causing pathogen, and the mode of transmission and prevention or control or cure of the disease. Here we have TB. The full form of TB is tuberculosis. It's a kind of infection, especially happens to the lungs. Of course, it may get infected in other parts of the body also, but primarily it affects the lungs. People who get affected with tuberculosis get cough, severe cough, blood in the sputum. These are the symptoms of TB. So this TB, tuberculosis, is caused by bacteria. It is caused by bacteria, and it spreads by physical contact. Say if any person is suffering from tuberculosis, if he spits or coughs, if the spit particles, when he is sneezing, coughing or spitting, the spit particles, if they come in contact with our nose or mouth, or they fall on the food, if they enter our body, the disease causing organisms enter our body and may cause tuberculosis. Here the mode of transmission is air, mostly by the air. The TB bacteria spreads by air. And next, measles, chickenpox and polio. These three are caused by viruses. Measles is caused by virus, chickenpox is caused by virus, polio is caused by virus. Now, let us see the prevention of TB. TB, how can we prevent? We can take personal care. When somebody is sneezing or coughing, you keep handkerchief across your nose and mouth. And person who is suffering with TB also, they should take care that they should not spread the disease. So they should have a handkerchief to cover their mouth or nose when they are sneezing or coughing. In that way, it can be prevented. And second thing, the person who is suffering from TB, he should be in isolation. That means His items should not be used by other persons. His towel and his other items, spoons and all what he uses. So the personal items, the brush and tongue cleaner and these kind of personal items should not be used by other people. Of course, for TB also there is a vaccine which can be given to small children in the early ages. So by that they will not get TB in future. So vaccine is available. Personal care, isolation, vaccine. If you look at the other diseases like measles, chickenpox and polio, what is common in these three? They are caused by virus. I already told you that viral diseases cannot be cured because the medicines cannot directly act on viruses, work on viruses. It's very complicated because viruses do not have their own metabolism. So here, these three diseases also spread by air. Air is the medium which spread these measles, chickenpox and polio. But how can we prevent that? Again, vaccine. Vaccines are available for measles, chickenpox and polio, which are given to the small children at an age of 6 months or 12 months or 18 months. These vaccine doses are given to the small children. And oral polio vaccines are given up to 5 years of age. So by that the polio can be prevented. So here prevention is the measure. And these four diseases, TB, measles, chickenpox and polio, they are spread by the air. Now the other one, the next category, cholera, typhoid. This cholera and typhoid are caused by bacteria. Here mode of transmission is water by food, typhoid by water, contaminated water. Contaminated water, the water that contain the bacteria which cause typhoid or cholera. Cholera, it causes motions and vomitings. So when we consume contaminated food or water, it may lead to cholera. Generally, the disease like cholera, it spreads in certain situations like when there is a natural disaster like a tsunami or floods. So when there are floods, the water overflows. The drinking water get contaminated with the drainage water, polluted water, especially during rainy seasons when the drainages are overflowing, especially during floods when the river water or pond water, it gets exposed to sewage water, it gets contaminated. In those particular situations, we see that the water bodies get polluted, contaminated by microorganisms. In such cases, we see that cholera. So when these diseases are happening, sanitation is very important. Sanitation, proper sanitation, drinking boiled water, properly cooked food. The food should be properly cooked at certain temperature to kill any microorganisms are there in the food. Cooked food, properly cooked food. Properly cooked food and purified drinking water. Purified drinking water or boiled drinking water. Okay. Next, come to the other category. So in this category, cholera and typhoid both are spread by water. Now let us see hepatitis B. This is caused by virus and it is also spread by water. Water is the mode of transmission. Hepatitis B. It affects the liver. So here also we should drink purified drinking water. See that the water is not contaminated. So it is advisable, these days it is advisable to drink only pure, safe drinking water, purified drinking water. So in every houses, the care must be taken that the water is purified. Either the water is boiled or either the water is filtered through a personal filter, then only the water should be consumed. If not, the water may contain these microorganisms. The polluted water or contaminated water, apart from these microorganisms, it may contain so many minerals. It may contain so many unwanted substances. It may contain iron, rust, so many metals. So, the water, it plays a very important role in our metabolism, in maintaining proper health condition of our body. But that water, it should be pure and clean, free from all this kind of microorganisms and unwanted materials. So drinking pure water is very, very important to maintain good health. It is a very good preventive measure to control most of these diseases as they are spread by the contaminated water. And finally here we have malaria. Malaria is caused by a pathogen protozoa. So this protozoa, how this malaria is spread? By mosquitoes. Mosquitoes. So what do we do here? I already told you the mosquito population has to be controlled. That means we should see that there is no stagnant water at all. If you do not provide a ground for breeding, mosquitoes cannot breed, they cannot grow. It means you should see that there is no stagnant water in and around your surroundings. So you control the mosquito population. So we have seen certain diseases that are caused by microorganisms in humans. So microorganisms, they cause diseases not only in humans, they cause diseases even in animals as well as in plants. In cattle, foot and mouth disease is caused by bacteria in cattle. Likewise, so many diseases are caused in poultry, in fishes, and for prawns. So these diseases are controlled by applying different vaccines and antibiotics. So now let us see certain plant diseases and the pathogen and mode of transmission. Here, citrus canker is a disease. It is caused by bacteria and the mode of transmission is air. And rust of wheat disease is caused by fungus, and here the transmission is either by air or by seeds, contaminated seeds. And the other one, yellow vein mosaic of okra, bindi, and it is caused by virus and it is spread by insects. So these are the example from which we can see how the diseases like citrus canker or rust of wheat or yellow vein mosaic of okra, how they are transmitted, the mode of transmission, and what pathogen causes this disease. So by this we can understand that microorganisms, they cause diseases in animals, in humans, as well as in plants. Now let us see the another topic, food poisoning. So what is this food poisoning? Microorganisms, they feed on the uncovered food or cooked food or the food items which are like exposed to air and to moisture. See, we eat food. We prepare our breakfast, lunch and dinner. When they are hot, we serve them and we eat. It is a best practice to eat the freshly cooked food items. And if you bought something, some fruits or vegetables, you do not leave them outside. What do? You store them in a refrigerator, because if they are left outside, there is a chance by certain fungus, the fruit and vegetables may get spoiled. So they lose their nutritive value and they may be contaminated. Eating such contaminated food, eating such spoiled food leads to food poisoning. Food poisoning is a condition which causes illness in the humans. So always we should eat proper food, that is fresh food. Even though it is cooked or uncooked food, it should be fresh. If it is contaminated by microorganisms, it leads to food poisoning. It causes severe illness. Sometimes it may cause death also. So there are certain symptoms. Immediately you get stomach pain, you may get vomitings, you may get shivering, nervousness, and these kind of symptoms are shown. And finally, sometimes it may lead to death also. Immediately the person has to be treated for the food poisoning. Because when the food is spoiled by microorganisms, the microorganisms, they use the nutrients in the food and they produce toxins. These toxins, sometimes they are very much poisonous, harmful. If they are mixed up with our blood, they may lead to death also. So food should be properly preserved. The first best practice is don't preserve the food. If you get the food fresh, cook it, eat it. That's all. Preservation is the second option. Sometimes when the food is plenty and you want only little, the remaining food you cannot waste. You cannot throw it out because we should not waste the food. So the second option is storing the food properly. That is called as food preservation. There are different techniques by which we can store the food. The best practice and well-known practice is that refrigerator. Everything we throw in the refrigerator. So everybody will be having this big box in their houses. Whatsoever the food item it is, whether it is a packed food, you brought some packed food, you opened the packet and you consumed some food, and remaining packet is thrown in the refrigerator. And you buy some vegetables, you buy some fruits, and you drink some milk, and remaining milk is kept in the refrigerator. So everything, liquid, solids, all packed foods, processed foods, cooked foods, uncooked foods, semi-cooked foods, everything we store in refrigerator. It's a common place where you can preserve the food, but it does not guarantee that the food is completely preserved properly, and it does not guarantee that the food will totally have its complete nutritive value. The food may lose its nutritive value. Sometimes it may get even contaminated. So even in the refrigerator also you need to take certain precautions, properly covered, properly packed, properly placed, then only you can. But anyway, this is the most easiest and convenient way of preserving food, is using a refrigerator. Even in a refrigerator, you can preserve the items, certain food items, only for certain period. Certain food items can be preserved for very long time by other methods. Now we are going to look at different methods of food preservation. So now let us see the different techniques of food preservation. So food, when it is in excess, surplus, plenty, it has to be properly stored and it should be protected from the attack of microorganisms. Otherwise, the food gets spoiled, and if such food is consumed, it leads to food poisoning. So how can we preserve the food? First, let us see the chemical method. By the application of certain chemicals, we can preserve the food. The basic household chemicals like salt, sugar, and oils are used to preserve certain food items. Mangoes are made into pickles and can be preserved for years. The raw mangoes are cut into pieces and they are kept in salt, chili powder, and oil. So in this combination, it will prevent the attack of microorganisms, and the pickles are preserved for a long time. So apart from that salt or sugar, certain chemicals are used to preserve the food, especially sodium benzoate, sodium bisulfite, they are the certain chemicals which are used to preserve the food items like jams and squashes. They are used. Of course, there are so many different kind of chemicals. Preservatives are used to preserve the pre-processed food items or semi-cooked food items. Nowadays, if you go for a mall, there you find different kind of food items in different state. You find raw food items, you find semi-cooked food items. So they are using preservatives, right? So the next one, common salt. Common salt. Salt is used to preserve different food items. Salt is used to preserve mango, salted mangoes, fish, salted fish, prawns, salted prawns. So these are the different food items to which the salt is applied in large quantity. So when there is excess amount of salt on the body of these items, microorganisms cannot spoil the food. And next, sugar. Sugar syrup also prevent the growth of microorganisms. So thick sugar syrup. Jams are made by using sugar syrup. Any sweets that are made using the thick sugar syrup, they are not easily getting spoiled by the microorganisms, because the thick sugar syrup, whatever the thick sugar syrup, it will not allow the growth of microorganisms. And next is oil and vinegars. Oils are used in pickles. When a pickle is prepared, they use plenty of oil. They see that the pickle is totally covered by oil, a layer of oil. It does not allow the microorganisms to spoil the food item. At the same time, vinegar is also mixed up with certain food items. See, for example, generally, basically, this is mixed up with ginger garlic paste. Ginger garlic paste. So this paste is made using ginger plus garlic ground into a paste which is used in dishes, but it gets spoiled. To avoid the spoilage of ginger and garlic, vinegar is added. Likewise, for many of the foods, vinegar is added. Even in pickles also vinegar is added. So it will prevent the growth of microorganisms. The other one is cold and heat treatment. We discussed that if you keep the food in refrigerator, that is at low temperature, you can preserve it. In the same way, from the agricultural fields, if the farmers, they bring a lot of products, fruits or vegetables, for example, 10 tractors of tomatoes. So there is no market today. What do they do with the 10 tractors of tomatoes? They get easily spoiled in 1 or 2 days. But they can sell them only after some 4 days or 5 days. What do? They take all these vegetables or fruits to cold storage units. So cold storage unit is like a very big refrigerator. It is a very big room, godown, which is having low temperature. So there they keep all the product for 3 days, 4 days safely. Again they take it back to the market when it is favorable. In such a way, cold storages are helpful. And certain food items like prawns and fish are exported to other countries. But prawns, they get spoiled very easily, very quickly. But how can they export it? It takes very long time to get shipped to other country. So all the prawns are packed in ice at very low temperatures. So in refrigerated containers, the containers which are having the low temperature, in that containers, these ice packed prawns are carried to different countries. So they can be preserved for days without spoilage. So that is cold treatment. Certain food items, they can be preserved by heat treatment. What is that? Milk. Milk is pasteurized to preserve for long time. Pasteurized. What is pasteurization? Boiling the milk up to 70 degrees Celsius till 20 to 30 seconds. So boiling the milk at 70 degrees Celsius for 15 to 30 seconds. 15 to 30 seconds. Then we can preserve the milk for long time. So this is called as pasteurization. Why it is called as pasteurization? This method, it was found by Louis Pasteur. So in honor of him, his name is given to this method, pasteurization. What is pasteurization? Boiling the milk to 70 degrees Celsius. 15 to 30 seconds of time is maintained when the milk is at 70 degrees Celsius. So the milk is boiled at 70 degrees Celsius 15 to 30 seconds, then it is cooled. So by that the milk is preserved for a long time. In this way the milk can be supplied to different places. So in the meantime the milk does not get spoiled. So this is the heat treatment. And what is the last method here? We have seen the chemical method, common salt, sugar, oil and vinegar, cold and heat treatments. Now storage and packing. So what is that storage and packing? Nowadays the packing technology has developed a lot. Advanced materials are brought into packing. So in this packing the machinery also developed. Earlier there was no such machinery to pack the food items. Nowadays vacuum packing is available. Vacuum packing in the sense, when the food is dry, the food is packed in a cover and the air present in the cover is removed. So there is no air. In a airless condition the food is packed. So it is not spoiled by microbes. It is called vacuum packing. Tetra packing, 6-layer packing. 6 layers of different materials, they pack the food. So no organisms can enter into the food item. Even milk, fruit juices and many of the items are packed in such a way. So with the advancement of the packing technology, the food items are packed in such materials in which the food is not spoiled and preserved for a very long time. So this is the era of packed food. If you go to market, everything you find it in a packet format. Even the curries, even the rice, even the biryani, whatsoever which you cook at home or at hotels, it is all available in the form of a packet. The only thing you need to do is just get the packet, open it, just heat it and have it. So all these are very instant foods. So here the food is pre-cooked and it is preserved with certain chemicals. After adding certain chemicals, proper packing is done, and after proper packing, that is stored at proper temperature. All these techniques, most of these techniques are applied to make the food, cooked foods, instantly cooked foods available to us. So that we are making use of this technology. But if something somewhere it goes wrong, so the packing technology is very well developed, but if you see that the packing has got a leakage, the food may get spoiled. In the same way, excessive usage of chemicals to preserve the food is not good for health. And preserved foods, of course, they may not be getting spoiled, but they may carry certain kind of, different kind of viruses. So the techniques must be properly applied. Whatever the different techniques are there, they should be properly applied. Proper standards are to be maintained in applying all these techniques. And there should be proper quantity limits. So the food authorities, the government authorities should inspect that whether they are properly using proper preservatives or not, in proper quantity or not. Of course, otherwise they may damage the health of the public. See, we see so many pickles packing, packed pickles, packed food items. We see the preservative is added. Preservative number 0902 is added. We don't know what is that 0902. We don't have any information with us. So that should be the concern of the government to take care of the health. So the food preservation methods are to prevent the food getting spoiled by microorganisms. So these methods, they help us to avoid the wastage of food and preserve the food for the further use. But the best choice is that eating fresh food, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, fresh green leafy vegetables, fresh nuts, fresh milk, everything fresh, it will be having its 100% nutritive value. So if the preserved food may not guarantee you that 100% nutritive value, it may be losing certain amount of its nutritive value. Certain nutrients in the food may become inactive because of this preservation. But here our concept is that how to protect the food from microorganisms. So we are learning the different possibilities by which we can prevent the spoilage of food by microorganisms. Now let us see the nitrogen fixation, the role of microorganisms in nitrogen fixation, which is a very important thing for the plants, because plants, for their growth, they need proteins. To make up the proteins, the plant, they require nitrogenous substances. So these nitrogenous substances are present in the soil. As the plants are continuously growing up, crops are rotated, crops are growing, crop by crop, the nitrogenous compounds present in the soil are used up by the plants. How they are replenished, how they are recharged, how the nitrogenous compounds are being added to the soil again and again. So this is all happens in a cycle. Now let us understand this nitrogen fixation and the role of microorganisms. Certain leguminous plants, the plants, especially the pulses plants, green gram, Bengal gram, groundnut, these are all called as legume plants. So the legume plants, they have some nodules on their roots called as root nodules. Root nodules. So the root nodules, they consist of a bacteria called as rhizobium. Rhizobium. So what does this bacteria does? The soil, it contains certain bacteria. The root nodules of this leguminous plants consist of the rhizobium, which helps in fixing of atmospheric nitrogen. The air contains 78% of nitrogen, but this nitrogen cannot directly add up to the soil. It is done only in two ways. One is lightning. You know, lightning and thunders. So when there is a lightning, at that time certain atmospheric nitrogen is fixed to nitrogenous compounds into the soil. but it is a very rare situation. What is the other main thing? Nitrogen fixing bacteria, blue-green algae. It fixes the atmospheric nitrogen into nitrogenous compounds. These nitrogenous compounds are further converted into some other form by which they can mix up with this soil, the compounds of nitrogen. So nitrogen fixing bacteria or blue-green algae, they're called the blue-green algae are called as nitrogen fixing bacteria. They fix the atmospheric nitrogen to certain nitrogenous substances. So these substances are converted to compounds of nitrogen, that means which can be easily assimilated by the plants. So these nitrogenous compounds are taken up by the plants. Plants absorb these nitrogenous compounds. The plants, they grow up. The plants, they bear the fruits, grains and all which contain proteins. So the plants are eaten by animals and humans. We are eating the chana which contain the proteins, which contain the nitrogen. So the animals are consuming, humans are consuming this nitrogen from plants. And the animals, after utilizing the energy from the food, they excrete the waste. And if animals are died, the dead bodies of the animals, the excreta and dead bodies of the animals, they contain the nitrogen. So the nitrogenous compounds present in the excreta and dead bodies of animals, it is decomposed again to nitrogenous gas by bacteria. Denitrifying bacteria. Denitrifying bacteria. Here it is nitrifying bacteria, nitrogen fixing bacteria, here denitrifying bacteria. So both the places, the bacteria plays, the microorganism plays an important role in fixing the nitrogen, again from the soil taking the nitrogen to the atmosphere. So the denitrifying bacteria, it decomposes the nitrogenous compounds and nitrogen gas is again released to atmosphere. So the percentage of nitrogen in the atmosphere is constant, 78% always it is maintained. So the nitrogen, it is rotating from the atmosphere to the soil, soil to the atmosphere through this nitrogen cycle, in which plants, animals and microorganisms are part of this nitrogen cycle. You can see that the plants are a part of the nitrogen cycle here, animals are a part of the nitrogen cycle here, and microorganisms are the part of the nitrogen cycle. They are the ones which are running this cycle. The microorganisms here, they are fixing the nitrogen. The different microorganisms, bacteria, they are denitrifying. So we have different groups of microorganisms where certain microorganisms fix the nitrogen, certain microorganisms denitrify the nitrogenous compounds to release the nitrogen gas into atmosphere. So see that the wonderful mechanism by which the nitrogen is rotated, which is operated by the microorganisms. So by that we can appreciate how well these microorganisms are helping the nature to carry out various other processes, like for photosynthesis, for the growth of plants, for the growth of animals. So see that how all the other organisms, the living structure of the other organisms is connected to this microorganisms. So the microorganisms are very much helpful for the animals and plants as well as humans, and of course we see certain microorganisms causing diseases and preventive measures. So we conclude that microorganisms, they are friendly, they are our friends. At the same time, certain microorganisms are our enemies, but somehow with the advancement of science and technology, we have studied about them, and we started making more and more beneficial things with the microorganisms, and at the same time we found preventive measures to control the diseases caused by microorganisms, and we have found antibiotics to cure the diseases. So we have got complete knowledge of the microorganisms, and with that knowledge we are able to protect or preserve the food items not getting spoiled by microorganisms, and the study of microorganisms is called as a microbiology. So when you study the microbiology, you will get the complete knowledge about the microorganisms.